morning. It's still a little early. And I've made a few videos on a whole bunch of other stuff, but I know there was a couple of things in regards to LEDs dealing with interior on replacing them on the cars, older cars, if you will. So this is new to me. It's a 2013 Volvo XC60. It's a T6 all-wheel drive. It only has 84,000 miles on it. So I got a really awesome deal on it and got rid of the GLI. Anyway, couple things I've done here already is I've kind of swapped out LED headlights. I've cleaned up these headlights themselves just to get the hazing off and the yellowing. But what I'm going to talk about here is the LEDs for interior, and I guess I can go through some of the exterior, just kind of where and how to pop them out and kind of walk through that a little bit. So we'll get to that. So one of the things I actually did do is a couple of tools I used. So number one, I went on Amazon, and for like $7 you can buy the trim piece toolkit, which is pretty decent. I mean, since I'm not doing this all day, but you get your pry bar for doing pop outs, those little plastic tabs that you got to get behind. And it's got a whole bunch of other different sizes and shapes of plastic tools to help with prying out bulbs. You can see I have some of the ones I used here. These are Auxito, AUXITO bulbs. Basically everything in this car used either a 194 or I believe this is like a 6144 or 6148 equivalent festoon bulb that worked pretty well. And you can see it's got a nice little curve on the LED, so you get a pretty good even pattern from the chip. And then I've got my long, thin flathead screwdriver. So simple. And let's get into some LEDs. So like I said, I did the LED headlights on here. They're Auxito as well, H11 bulbs. I am getting a new set of 194s for the wedge here. I'll put in LEDs on that just because those are getting a little dull anyway, and I'll get some orange ones. The rear I did do, which you won't be able to see, but I did put LED reverse lights. Again, the Auxito 7506 or 7507 bulb for that. I did the license plate lights, which I will show you how to do those. We did the puddle lights, which we'll get in how to do that. And we did everything on the interior, including footwells, dome lights. I can find the button. Map light and rear domes. And as well as the rear hatch. We'll pull that up. There you go. Much brighter. So we'll walk through real quick how to replace all those different pieces. All right, first up is that puddle light. That little guy that shows up underneath here. Again, that's a 194, easy to pop out. We'll start off with that. What you're actually gonna do is you're gonna take your mirror, you're gonna tilt it all the way up. So you're gonna kind of lean it back this way. And there's a spot right under here. You'll be able to see when I get the camera on it. All right, so we've got our mirror tilted up all the way. And if you look in here, see this little slot? Let me get my screwdriver. This little slot right in here. And you can see there's a little tab. You can see it sticking through right there. That little guy there. So what you do is you push in and down with the screwdriver on that tab. And what it'll do is pop out the corner here. Once that little piece pops out here, you can grab it, and be careful, don't grab too much of the lens, otherwise you can snap this off, you have to glue it back, but you're gonna pull it down and out, so it kind of twists around, hooks out. And then the bulb on the wires just pulls right out. So that one's pretty easy to do. Now for your hatch light. When you do the hatch, the bulb is connected over here, but on this side, there are two prongs and they hook in pretty deep like this. So you gotta make sure you get in there pretty deep with the pry tool, and you can kind of hit the corner of the hook and then push it all the way back. So there's 1 and 2 right here. And you'll see those as you pry this down a little bit, but once you snap those out, the whole unit will drop and slide out, and you can put a bulb in here as well. Again, that one, I'm 90% sure that's also a 194 or the same of that, the 6144. Again, I bought 2 packs of 10 for each, or a pack of 10 of each of the 194 and the other, so I had more than enough to do the whole car. When you're doing the reverse bulbs, you've got your pieces here And here, when you pull these bulbs out, and if you're doing either the reverse or the turn signals, just make sure that you are checking to make sure that the bulbs are connected, and don't be very careful when you're pushing things in and out of here, because this down here is an abyss. It goes between, it's the area between the body and the interior paneling. So, and I've had to go down there with some duct tape on a long piece of metal to pick up what I needed to pick up. So just make sure that when you're dealing with those, you aren't working here. You bring them out and you put them in. Pretty simple. These little guys are very simple. Reverse lights. Again, I use that 614448 bulb in here, those festoons. These are Torx T20s. Once you take those out, you can take your screwdriver, and all you do is you pry very gently here and just work it down. And once this pops out, it's actually just a metal tab spring that holds it all together. So there's no wires that are connecting it. It's a metal connect that makes the power flow, so you don't have any plugins. But just so you know, when you're doing that, very simple, very easy to do. They pop back into place. Put the T20s back in, you're good to go. All right, let me turn the light off on this one so you're not staring at lights the whole time. There we go. All right, this guy. This whole piece is a cover plate. It pops right down pretty easily. You just kind of put your fingers in there and the whole thing should pop down. And there you can see the bulbs. So now you can replace the bulbs right from here pretty easily. What I found works is if you put either a piece of duct tape around a pair of like needle nose pliers, because sometimes it's kind of hard to get your fingers up in here. That'll help for pulling the bulb out. I did solder some small 1/2 watt 1000 ohm resistors just to help with any ghosting. They go out after, you know, these were going out after 5-10 minutes of just that tiny little fade, but I wanted them off when they were all done, so I just soldered a little resistor to the back. If you do need to take this whole piece out, there are 4 tabs. You can see one here, one there, and then over here as well, that you just reach into from the back side here, and you pry them in and pop the whole unit out, and then it unplugs. The plug is over here on this side. But this one was pretty easy to do. In, done, have a nice day. This one, everybody talks about being difficult, hard, I get it, but this whole unit comes out pretty straightforward. Let me lock again to get these lights off. This whole unit comes out pretty easily. People say to make sure that the car isn't on, the ignition's not on or anything. I guess it can cause some type of a fault. I'm assuming it has to do with sensors and things to the airbag. Who the hell knows? Either way, car off. You pry your fingers up in here on this side, both sides, and you just pull straight down. It feels like it's gonna break, okay? So I get it, It might seem like you're gonna snap this whole thing in pieces. You won't. It pulls down, and then you just work your way around, take the whole thing out. There is a plug-in connector back in this area here, but you shouldn't need to worry about it, because once this whole unit is out, all the little 194s that are in here, which those are also 194, just twist out. They're little twist holders that just pop into place. So that one is a pretty easy one to do. Let me see if I can start popping it a little bit by hand here. There, see? Done. And there you go. Those little those springy clips right there. And it goes right back in. Finally is the footwell. Again, these aren't terribly hard to do. There's a connector in the back here you can get to, but if you just pop this off, there's a little snap on each side, and then you can pull the whole unit out through this area. I had to use a screwdriver and a needle nose plier to get the bulb out, just because it's a tiny little space to kind of get the bulb in and out of there. When you put it all back together, the easiest thing to do is to have it plugged in through the hole, snap the cover back on, and then put the whole unit back in, and then snap it up. If you try to put this all back together and hold the actual bulb housing together while you're snapping this plastic piece on, you're gonna go nuts. So do yourself a favor, put the whole thing back together again, and then push it back up into place. So that was it. It's pretty easy. There's not a lot to it. It just takes a little bit of time, a little bit of patience. So don't stress yourself out. It's easy enough to do. Just make sure you buy, the LEDs that you want. And like I said, it works well. It does what it needs to do. I'm happy with it just because I don't mind having it be nice and bright in there, especially with kids. and me wanting to be able to see all the crap that they leave in the back seat without having to hunt for it. So again, it's just a nice to have, and I think it adds to the car. It makes it feel a little bit more modern. Anyway, I hope you learned something. That covered a few things for this car. More to come about that and everything else going around in life, but we'll get there. All right, you guys have a great day. Bye.